apparently it's FNAF Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight, huh? Wait, they added Alien? I guess I should reply to that email. Hello everybody, it's me, Minecraft Maniac, and welcome to the Five Nights at Freddy's Dead by Daylight collaboration video. This has been in the works, honestly, for quite a while. Let's get a couple things quickly out of the way before we get into this. So this is my wish list, my ideas and thoughts thrown together. If you have better ideas or whatnot, tell me in the comments. So yeah, since this is my wish list, it's that this whole thing is a whole chapter, not just a skin collab. I mean, seriously, they could not fumble so hard to only get skins for a collab teased a year before it would release. One of the most hyped collabs ever. Come on. Enough rambling. Let's just hop into this. The killer in the FNAF chapter for Dead by Daylight should be the Remnant, the Agony, the animatronic, the attraction, the machine, the real one, the purple guy, the yellow rabbit, the man behind the slaughter himself, Springtrap. By the way, in the section if I say William Afton or William Afton, I'm referring to Springtrap because that's the monster who's stuck in the suit. So getting to the lore, it probably could be something like very basic. Most licensed characters get that sort of treatment. It would be probably something along the lines of William Afton, a businessman who co-founded Fredbear's Family Diner and was a key player in the success of Fazbear Entertainment and their Freddy Fazbear's Pizza locations, a place where fantasy and fun was brought to life. He, however, took life from innocent children, hiding their remains in the animatronic mascots that were then brought to life by their demise. Years after the closure of the restaurant, he destroyed the animatronics, yet their spirits persisted. Cornered, he donned the decaying Spring Bonnie mascot from the old Fredbear days, the same suit he used to lure these children to their demise. Fate had different plans for him, as the decrepit nature of the building and the age of the Springlock suit caused it to fail after he put it on. William endured a horrible death and was bound to the suit, just like the children he murdered. After clawing his ways out of the flames of death again and again, he was surrounded by a black fog, which promised he'd have more victims to slaughter. That wasn't that bad. That might suffice, but I honestly hope they go all out and have Scott basically hold their hand when crafting the lore. You know, confirm things, probably stuff we agree on, but not like concretely stated. Go more in depth about his life and his relationships with his family and Henry. You could do something more along the lines of William Afton, father, businessman, inventor, performer, liar, murderer. Early on into his life, William was always bright. With age, he used his intellect to build connections, one of which was an aspiring technological genius named Henry Emily. With William's understanding of business and Henry's talent with robotics, they were able to create a simple entertainment restaurant called Fredbear's Family Diner. They had animatronic characters named Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, a spring prefix due to the fact that both characters were made with Henry's patented Springlock technology. This allowed the animatronic performers to be taken backstage, and with the use of a hand crank, the animatronic parts could be compressed to the sides so a person could use it as a mascot suit. Not only did this save money, it also allowed for consistency between the characters, and it didn't break the illusion and ruin the magic. Henry's magic wasn't the only contributing factor to their success. William's knowledge of business allowed them to manage their finances, build connections, get merchandising deals, and advertise their characters. They even got an animated cartoon to promote the location and test new characters. Fredbear's was a success, and they were now a part of Fazbear Entertainment, which would further push the brand and allow them to franchise. William was the one with the know-how and connections. He thought he was the one to make this empire, and yet, everyone was more fascinated by Henry's creations. Their partnership ended up getting rocky due to Afton's jealousy. William, so caught up with work, didn't have much time to be a family man. William needed somebody to keep an eye on his children. His eldest son, Michael, was tasked with being the babysitter for his younger siblings. While William did have some merchandising of the Fredbear character, crafted into a makeshift nanny cam, the bulk of the work was unloaded on his firstborn. After all, he was busy running Fredbears, as well as working on a new circus-themed location with clown characters. He did occasionally talk to his youngest son through the Fredbear plush, trying to keep him safe. Michael was fed up with being a babysitter, and he took out his aggression on his brother, often taunting him for being so afraid of everything, including the animatronics. This culminated into Michael bullying his brother on his own birthday. He decided to place his head into the Fredbear animatronic's jaw. This led to the Fredbear character biting down on the child, causing him to be on life support till ultimately dying. Not only did this fracture William's family, but it left a bad impression on Fredbears and Fazbear Entertainment as a whole. William would deal with his son cruelly, and his jealousy of Henry increased exponentially. Not only was Henry's family perfect, but it was his character that killed his son, ruined his family and his image. After going down the path of alcoholism, William, in a drunken rage, drove to a Fazbear location. He saw Charlie, Henry's daughter, locked outside. He saw an opportunity. The character Henry had repurposed into watching his daughter was trapped, unable to help. Henry would feel the pain William felt as he drove up to Charlie and Emily. She saw her Uncle William, yet noticed something was off. William claimed his first victim that night. After he was done, William sped off home. Her body was discovered in a back alley with the puppet tasked to protect her wrapped around her body. When William got home, he noticed the babysitter he had hired after the big bite just watching TV. They told him to leave Michael alone, yet William ignored this. He got aggressive since Michael's door was locked. He went around back to the window only to see it was broken. He ran off to the spot where his brother was buried. William had plans for Michael when he returned. Now, not only was William's family and image destroyed, so was Henry, who took a step back from the business to grieve. Years later, William had an itch. An itch he scratched years ago. Was it revenge or the thrill of taking a life? He donned his spring Bonnie suit to perform, to take his mind off it. He was even, and despite the incident, Fazbear Entertainment was thriving. Fredbear's was no longer, but the suits were still in use at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He still had that itch, though. While in the suit, he noticed a little girl, crying at an arcade. Her dog was missing. He put on a risky performance and told her he knew her dog wasn't dead, that her dog was there, and all she had to do was follow him. He lured her to a safe room, a room designed for the spring-lock suits in case of any incidents. Due to an incident with one of the suits, a room that would soon be sealed over and covered up. A room conveniently not on the building's floor plan and without any security cameras. He lured her back there and drove a kitchen knife into her. William felt so alive, so powerful. He performed, lied to, and lured 5 children into that room. 1, then another, then 2, then 1 more. He made sure to clean up his mess and decided to hide the bodies in a place no one would check. 'Cause why would they? After a thorough investigation, they weren't found, and yet people noticed the animatronics. They were different, disgusting. They were leaking some sort of fluid, especially around the facial area. Due to the children's disappearance and health concerns, the restaurant was shut down. Not only that, William was a suspect for the murder. Due to the lack of evidence, he was able to get away with it, but Fazbear Entertainment got rid of him to avoid controversy. In the meantime, William continued working on that circus-themed location called Circus Baby's Pizza World, now under Afton Robotics. His jealousy of Henry allowed him to try to prove that he was able to create, but his creations had a much more sinister undertone. They were able to mimic, lure, and capture children, so he could kill or even experiment with life itself. Death just fascinated him. On the day this restaurant was supposed to open, Elizabeth Afton was a victim of her father's creations. Blaming the incident on gas leaks, the restaurant shut down. The characters were repurposed for a rental facility where they would be stored and fixed before being sent out to parties. After William's failure, hearing of Fazbear Entertainment's success was infuriating. They were to open a much grander location. William returned, unrecognizable, and with an alias. He was able to get a position working there. The plan was to use the old characters, but to fix them up with some more high-tech features. William was able to truly get rid of most of the evidence, besides the smell and the souls of the children bound to the metal. After deciding these characters were too much work to fix up, they decided to make new ones with safety precautions to ensure another incident wouldn't occur. Unfortunately, William had other plans. Within a couple weeks of the restaurant opening, it was closed down. 5 more people were killed and it was under investigation. On the last day at a birthday party, one of the new animatronics that William had tampered with had beaten an employee in front of an entire birthday party. Now, Fazbear Entertainment has a history with death and malfunctioning animatronics. After much convincing, William got his son to work the final night shift to see if anything was suspicious about the characters. Fritz Smith, Michael's alias, was fired the next morning for tampering with the animatronics. He was able to report back to his father that the animatronics were aggressive, and it fascinated him. Fazbear Entertainment tried one last time, and on a smaller budget, reopened the original location. The old characters were restored to their vintage appearance, and the newer characters had already been scrapped for malfunctioning. This new location did not bring in too many customers, and it was left to rot. William, again, got Michael to work the night shift, downright confirming the characters were haunted. Due to the lack of interest, the place did shut down by the year's end. William had some loose ends to tie up. He sent his son off to work at Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental under the guise of freeing his sister. He was sure that would take care of him. William then used the opportunity to break into the now abandoned Freddy's and lure back his old victims to the same place, now to dismantle their metal bodies, to see what made them tick. One by one, he felt so powerful, so alive. He didn't account for the spirits to haunt him after the fact. Cornered, he donned that same old spring Bonnie suit, and due to the decay and sloppiness of William, the suit failed. He experienced agony, feeling the metal tear through his flesh and shatter his bones slowly. Each part failed, snapped, and locked while he broke, tore, and bled. He convulsed in agony until he drowned in his own blood, stuck in an old suit in a forgotten room. Yet through agony or possession, he lived on, just to rot and suffer. 30 years after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed its doors, the owners of Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, were determined to revive the legend of the events that took place all those years ago. And trying to be as authentic as possible, they acquired all sorts of drawings, decorations, and animatronic parts. They were even able to contact someone who designed the original location, and he told them there was an extra room that was boarded up. After discovering a moldy rabbit animatronic, Fazbear's Fright finally had an attraction: Springtrap. William had embraced his agonizing death and had truly become the monster he always was. He roamed the halls, surrounded by memorabilia, drawings, and what was left of his victims, plastered and propped up like trophies. Springtrap was not content with just roaming. He needed to kill. The only person there was the nighttime security guard, which just so happened to be Michael. After freeing his sister, Michael discovered the horrors his father truly committed and wanted to purge him from this world. Springtrap wasn't too happy to see Michael either. He ruined his image, his family, his reputation. He should have been dead. Springtrap hunted Michael for the entire first week. And right before Fazbear's Fright was to open to the public, it burnt to the ground. While there may have been foul play, it was most likely the poor electrical system. And still, among the rubble, Springtrap survived. He's cheated death again. He's evaded punishment again. While he did sustain damage, he was free from his glorified trophy hall. He could roam and kill as he pleases. He felt unstoppable. After discovering Fazbear Entertainment, after all this time, is trying again, he returns to wreak havoc. He rots outside the location, drawn in by the promise of killing, only to be taken inside by his son. He gets to see what's left of his victims, his creations, and his daughter, all drawn in by this location, on purpose. He discovers this place is not as it seems, and yet he remains, feeling so powerful. He knew he'd be able to get himself out of death yet again, but not in the way he expected. All week, Afton and the rest of the haunted characters attempted to chase new victims and set out to slaughter Michael. He, however, was able to keep them all at bay. By the end of the week, it was revealed that this location was a trap created by William's old business partner, Henry Emily, who had discovered all the heinous acts he committed and was driven by guilt to burn it all. Each one of them, Henry and Michael included, were to burn along with this location and Fazbear Entertainment as a whole. William should have had to suffer in hell, and yet he got something worse. His own purgatory brought on by one of his victims, one that was different, aware, vengeful. He was to die to his creations and even himself, over and over and over again. He got to get mutilated for eternity, and even if he survived the night, he started all over again, his own looping purgatory. And yet, after death, one night, no one came. While no characters showed up, Afton felt a different presence. Dark fog seeped in through the ventilation, pouring through the doors until it engulfed him. Now his flesh restored, and still trapped and mangled inside the rotten Spring Bonnie suit, he accepted the fog's promise to let him release the agony he had to feel onto brand new victims. Afton's power will be related to the experience of facing him in FNAF 3. William Afton had manipulated these children, and even in death they still trusted him. Even after destroying them, he could still command what remains. Springtrap's power, remnants of the past. It would be a swappable power, similar to Night or Vecna, in which you could select which phantom to send out. The detection range of the phantom would be like a smaller version of Vecna's dispelling sphere, so you could choose which direction to haunt. Phantom Mangle would cause the oblivious status effect that would persist until you reset it at the maintenance panel. The oblivious would linger for an extra 5 seconds after clearing this audio error. Phantom Foxy would grant oblivious for 15 seconds regardless of whether it's cleared at the maintenance panel or not. The main usage of Phantom Foxy would be the bonus effect of incapacitated. This would persist until the error is cleared at the maintenance panel. Phantom Freddy would have the ability to chase the survivor to potentially lead to an injury, at the cost of having a much longer cooldown than the other phantoms. Lastly, Phantom Puppet would cause a false terror radius to emit from all teammates and would cause hallucinations of Springtrap, similar to the Doctor's hallucinations. Survivors would hear the sound effect from FNAF 3 that plays when Springtrap is near. It would be rather faint until the phantom is closer, and the phantom would appear like Sadako when she's unmanifested, when within 8 meters of your survivor. The special map feature of the maintenance panel would have another use, as it would be situated on top of a vent opening. This would give Springtrap a map traversal ability, similar to Xenomorph, with vents all around the map instead of the Xenomorph's tunnels. It would have the maintenance panel, so on top of clearing errors, you could view the vent cameras and close the vent. Just like FNAF 3, only one vent could be closed at a time. Springtrap would be granted a brief 5-second undetectable after exiting the vent, to build upon the jump scare notion that the entire franchise is known for. Well, that and the whole insanely complicated lore. This power would give Springtrap some good map traversal as well as decent slowdown and pseudo-stealth.
Fascinating. What they have become.
William Afton is known for the agony he constantly endures, his technological know-how, and his relentless nature of always coming back. These 3 aspects of his character should be represented in his perks. Perk number 1, Cycle of Damnation. The damnation you put others through has been thrown back onto you. That doesn't stop you, though. After hooking a survivor, you gain the blindness status for 30 seconds. When a survivor is unhooked, gain a 15% haste effect for 6, 8, or 10 seconds.
I am here to claim what is left of you.
Perk 2, Hex Spring Locks. Spring-based machines have their flaws. Perhaps they can be weaponized. Kicking a generator will install spring locks and will be highlighted to you in yellow. When a survivor misses a skill check on that generator, they will become injured and mangled for 70, 80, or 90 seconds. Injured survivors will be afflicted with deep wound.
How can I resist a promise such as this?
Perk 3, Inevitable Recurrence. Being closer to their goals puts survivors at ease, but unfortunately, you will come back. Each time a generator is completed, the survivor closest to you screams and their orb is shown to you for 3, 5, or 7 seconds.
I always come back.
While nothing is ever explicitly shown, Five Nights at Freddy's can get quite graphic. I think this should be given proper light within Springtrap's Mori animation. Springtrap looms over a cowering survivor, and then he decides to stomp their legs to keep them more still. Then he pulls out an animatronic head and shoves it onto the survivor. It wouldn't be too horrible if it weren't for all the cross beams, wires, and animatronic devices, especially around the facial area. After hearing flesh tear and bones crunch, the camera would pan to the survivor's slumped body and show their eyeballs and teeth poking out the front of the mask. The mask could have a 20% chance to be a Freddy head, a Bonnie head, a Chica head, a Foxy head, or a Golden Freddy head. Upon the animation finishing, other survivors could go over to their dead teammate and take off the mask, revealing their friend's extremely mangled head beneath. Survivors can only hold one of the heads at a time. If the survivor escapes with all 5 of the unique animatronic heads over the course of various games, they would be granted a secret achievement called Just Another Crappy Cosplay. It could even unlock a special FNAF 3 Foxy lamp charm as a reference to the line's origins. Speaking of voice lines, it would be interesting if Springtrap delivered his
bittersweet but fitting
line when killing the chapter's survivor. Speaking of which, the most logical survivor for the Five Nights at Freddy's chapter would be someone deeply tied to Freddy's, and especially someone tied to the killer. That would be none other than Mike. Not you. We'll get back to you later. Michael Afton. His backstory and entrance to the fog should touch on similar events to his father's. Unlike his father, Michael did repent and atone for his actions, leading him to be a survivor. Firstborn son of William Afton, Michael always seemed to be in trouble, and had quickly fallen out of favor when his siblings were born. Due to the success of Fredbear's, his father was not around to watch his children. As Michael was the oldest, that responsibility fell upon him. He was always underappreciated by his father, and so he took out his emotions onto his younger brother. His younger brother was so cowardly. He wasn't a baby anymore, yet William was much more lenient with him than he ever was with Michael. Resentment built in Michael, so that he would often bully his brother. It is the only thing that seemed to bring him joy these days. That and occasionally watching television. Michael learned of his younger brother's, ironically not quite irrational fear, of the animatronics, so he used this knowledge as much as he could. His brother wasn't afraid of the characters, though, so in order to drive his brother to tears more, he ripped the head off of one of his beloved plushies, the Foxy character. Not only this, but he would wear the mask of that specific character and jump out at his brother to mess with him. While rather mean, this behavior wasn't quite as cruel as it could be, as it would be. Unfortunately, Michael's cruelty only built up towards his brother's birthday, leaving him at the restaurant alone and even locking him in a backstage area, surrounded by heads, empty suits, and other animatronic parts. The day of his brother's party, Michael gathered his friends and brought them to Fredbear's. Regardless of how scared his brother was, their father owned that restaurant, so that's where the party would be. They surrounded him, and Michael had a brilliant idea. They picked him up after Michael said he wanted to get up close and personal. Ignoring his little brother's cries and pleas, they brought him closer. Michael then had the brilliant idea to put him in Fredbear's mouth, saying that he wanted to give him a big kiss. It took them a bit of effort to shove him in Fredbear's mouth. They were laughing at his flailing, desperately trying to get out of the jaws of the beast. Laughing only stopped when there was a loud mechanical crunch, and his brother stopped moving. The sadistic prank ended up being known as the Big Bite. While on life support, Michael talked to his brother, deeply apologizing for his mistake. The guilt he felt was unmeasurable, taking out his misery on his brother until he caused his untimely demise. His father seemed devastated, slipping into alcoholism. Since his father was too busy working and drinking, they now had a proper babysitter, mostly to keep Michael behaved. He'd often lock himself away in his room, especially to avoid the abuse from his father. He would sneak away constantly, running off to a mound in the woods where his brother was buried. Every day was rough for him. On one rainy night, he swore he saw something outside his window. Something that looked a lot like Fredbear. A reminder of his mistake and of his brother. He broke through the window and ran to his grave, hoping by some miracle his brother was alive, or that his brother forgave him. William was furious, and he made sure Michael was sorry when he got home. Soon after that, every day felt like a nightmare, like he was in a twisted version of their house, hearing shuffling and breathing from outside the bedroom he seemed to be trapped in. In a twist of irony, the breathing was from what seemed to be animatronics, now sharp and vile and twisted, most likely how his brother saw them. He experienced this daily, and the nightmares only seemed to briefly go away when his father needed him. That, and his desire to please his father, and the guilt is why he complied to do whatever his father asked. His father told him to work the night shift at a new Freddy's location, and he listened. His father told him to use a fake name so they wouldn't remember him from the Big Bite, and he listened. While at work, he felt like he was being hunted, just like in his nightmares. He also could have sworn he saw Fredbear again. He listened to his father once more and messed with the animatronics after his shift. He was then fired. Afterwards, the nightmares returned. They continued, night after night after night. Some part of Michael felt he deserved this for what he did. Then the nightmares changed. Instead of dealing with the Freddy's characters, he dealt with a horrific version of Fredbear. The nightmares only got worse. He felt like he was being tormented in real time, like he never slept. His father seemed to notice the change in Michael, and how much more compliant he was. And when his father told him to work the night shift at Freddy's again, he listened, since Fritz Smith was fired from the previous location a few years ago. He used his mother's maiden name. Mike Schmidt was ready for his first week at Freddy's. He was getting settled in the office and was greeted by some former employee, explaining that the animatronic characters would roam in order to keep their servos from locking up. Something about the way they moved was odd. They looked reanimated. From what he could remember of his previous job as Fritz, these older characters moved similarly, the way they stared. He assumed it was because they were broken, but when he looked at them, looming at the office doors, he could tell they were looking back. He knew something wasn't right, seeing hallucinations of the characters, posters on the wall of his brother. It's me. It's me. It's me. Something he would hear and even see often, like the words were carved into his eyes. This couldn't just be a ventilation issue. He wasn't going crazy. It was like he was reliving his nightmare in real time, like they were hunting him for what he did. After barely making it through his first 5 nights at Freddy's and some overtime, He was fired yet again for tampering with the animatronics. What purpose this had, why his father had told him to do this, Michael had no idea. By year's end, this new location closed down. All the tragedies from years past led people just not wanting to go to Freddy's, and the building was already left to rot well before it was to close. Michael was still haunted by what he had done and was still willing to listen to his father. When his father told him he had business to attend to, and to apply at Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental to get answers and put your sister back together, Michael complied, unaware of his fate. He'd always kind of wondered what happened to Elizabeth, but was too busy trying to appease. The last thing William told his son was to come find him when it was done, and they could finally fix Michael's biggest mistake. Michael descended down that elevator to do as he was asked. An attempt to write his name on the faulty hand unit, Eggs Benedict, started his week at Circus Baby's. Crawling through cramped vents was something Michael wasn't too experienced with, but due to his time as Fritz at the new and improved Freddy's, he feared he wouldn't be alone in these vents. After performing his tasks of electrocuting these dangerous machines, he returned through both vents and headed home to watch his favorite soap opera, The Immortal and the Restless. The second night, he had his first encounter with Circus Baby herself. She told him how to survive when the system was being rebooted, and how to survive traversing the Ballora Gallery. At this point, Michael was just good at following instructions. After making it into the breaker room, he found he wasn't alone. But from what little he could tell, and look at the proper layout of the place, he thought he saw his house on the map, and the house from his nightmares, all connected to this place. Yet successfully, after keeping Funtime Freddy at bay, he carefully escaped to go home and watch his show. He returned for his third night, and he had to carefully cross through the Funtime Auditorium to deactivate Funtime Freddy. Before doing this, however, Michael decided to check back on Circus Baby. She explained her experience on stage before the proper restaurant was shut down, and they were all sent here. She explained that for whatever reason, she was counting the children. When there was only one, she wasn't herself, and then heard screaming. Michael was utterly disturbed by this, and yet he still tried to complete his task of animatronic maintenance. Upon completing this and attempting to leave, he was attacked by Funtime Foxy. Upon waking up, he discovers he's trapped in a spare costume in an odd room. Circus Baby explains to Michael the purpose of this room, and the scooper, which Michael witnesses firsthand how it works due to technicians using it on Ballora. Circus Baby then tells Mike that he's in a springlock costume, and to wind the springlocks to avoid a grisly death. After dealing with this and a barrage of mini-Renas climbing all over him, he's finally rescued and able to go home. Michael returns unknowingly for his final night at Circus Baby's. Upon his arrival, he's greeted to a grisly image, the two technicians from the previous day hanging where the animatronic should be. He heads down the Funtime Auditorium to fix Circus Baby. She instructs him to listen closely and input a code on the inside of her suit. She's then sent off to be scooped, but due to Michael's work, he can still hear her. She guides Mike through the dark in order to escape from an angry Ballora, but leads him to the scooping room. It's revealed that, just like his father, Circus Baby has manipulated Mike. Circus Baby, now combined with the remains of the other Funtime characters, informs Michael of their true plan, to escape. In order to escape, they need to hide in something, or someone. Michael helplessly listens to their plans, and hears the sound of the scooper starting up. It had already been frightening enough when he watched Ballora get scooped, but now it's his turn. The amalgamation of haunted animatronic parts slips into Michael's skin and escapes from the rental facility. After some weeks of wearing his skin, Ennard notices that their disguise is no longer working out. As day after day, the flesh bruises and decays. It gets to the point where walking around inside the sagging skin suit clearly isn't working, so they eject themselves from the hollowed carcass of Michael Afton. Yet cruelly, whether it be due to agony, or pain, or possession, Michael stands back up, truly a shell of what he once was. Now living in shadows, Michael waits. He had listened to his father, put his sister back together, and discovered the horrors of what his father did, what he helped to create. Now Michael only had one thing left to do: find William. After all, he sent Michael away to die, to cut off one last loose end. Michael wanted to return the favor. He'd have to wait. Years of living in shadows, hardly living, went by, and Michael still stuck to his goal. He'd heard through the wind whispers and rumors of some sort of new Fazbear-themed attraction opening. While not an official location, he still applied for the night watch. Old habits. His father seemed so aware of any time Fazbear Entertainment tried anything new. And then soon after tragedy struck, Michael knew why. Michael, knowing his father, knew if possible William would return, cause more death, more chaos. He waited, working there as the security guard, while they continued to line the walls with new drawings and props, all of which he had to keep an eye on with lousy cameras. The equipment he had at his disposal was very authentic to Fazbear Entertainment, as it was slow and hardly functional. Cameras that would crap out and need a reboot, spooky sounds to play that would often just jam, and ventilation that could stop working, causing an annoying alarm to blare as he gasped for proper air. Just about every night at the start of his shift, a dude on the phone would contact him about the stuff they found and how to fix some of these issues. He was worried that Mike might quit, yet he stuck around. Phone dude was happy to tell Mike about the new posters and props they found. Posters from the Fredbear days, more children's drawings of these once beloved characters, a foxy head, a bitter reminder of the past, of what he did, of what set all of this off. The dude on the phone would continue to call to explain all the new stuff they got, to remind Mike not to let the place burn down. Yet one day, 6 days before the attraction was set to open, the phone dude called and he was just ecstatic. All the drawings, posters, and props didn't mean as much compared to a full-on animatronic.
We found one. A real one.
Mike checked the cameras and he saw it. A classic character. His father's favorite. Spring Bonnie. A once yellow rabbit, now a sickly, moldy green that would blend far too well into the rancid-looking walls. And still, after years of rot and decay, the character could move around, presumably drawn to the sound. Like how the other characters he encountered supposedly had worked. The tapes played for him confirmed that fact. For his first encounter with it, he kept it away. Occasionally, he could swear he was seeing other characters, phantoms haunting him from his past. He realized the ventilation was in need of a reboot. He thought back to working at Freddy's, prior to the knowledge of what his father did, and he did think the animatronics were just acting strange, glitching. He now knew the truth. This one in particular seemed to be intelligent, aware it was being watched, cautiously creeping down the halls and climbing through the ventilation, always hiding from the cameras like it was a game, like a performance. As the week continued, it got more aggressive. The equipment worked less and less, and the phantoms of previous characters seemed to bother Mike to no end. The way it moved, stalked, hunted, it wasn't some poor victim of his father's crimes. Nor was it truly a machine. It crept closer to Mike, peering at him through the window. He could now see not just an animatronic in front of him, but what's left of someone inside. He did it. Mike found his father. Even in death, his father put on a show, put on a face. Michael could see some irony in his father's fate, trapped in an animatronic just like the kids he killed, his flesh twisted around metal. Now that Mike found his father, there was only one thing left to do: end it. Fazbear's Fright burned down overnight. Michael walked away, back to the shadows. Yet months later, Fazbear Entertainment seemed to have come back from the dead. Of course, Michael applied. He became a Fazbear franchisee and set out to create his own Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. Mike would set his pizzeria up as he saw fit, investing money into better quality plastic cutlery, more appealing tablecloths, proper sanitation, safety straps, more fun arcades and attractions, and higher quality animatronics. While the customers enjoyed his pizzeria, Michael would order supplies, ensure the place was maintained, and promote the restaurant. Even after these tasks were done, he wasn't done with the day. As part of his agreement in paragraph 4, it was to search outside for salvageable animatronics and to gather them all in one place. All he knew is that he needed to do this, and he needed the salvage money to keep the business afloat. Michael's true intentions were to see if any old faces wanted to show up, like how his father did at Fazbear's Fright. Before him was a mess of wires that had writhed inside his skin, now with a new yet familiar face leading the coalescence of the Circus Babies cast. A voice on the cassette tape instructs him on how to test these animatronics and how to proceed safely. With that salvage out of the way, he now had to worry about that mass of wires slithering about the vents the next day. Upon his next salvage, it was brought to his attention that his plan at Fazbear's Fright was less than successful. William Afton sat before him, looking more decrepit than he did when they encountered it last. The next salvage was what remained of his sister, clearly having been separated from the massive Ennard. Then the last salvage was an unfamiliar bear character, looking similar to the Freddy featured in the Smiles and Servos Incorporated section of the catalog, and identical to a listing in the Rare Finds auction. After completing what he was contractually obliged to, Michael continued to work on this pizzeria. On the Saturday of the very first week he started, all of these characters were even more violent and restless than days prior. After narrowly finishing his tasks, what's left of his sister starts monologuing, explaining that in bringing everyone here, they could be complete and do what they were created to do. Before she can finish, a voice cuts her off. The same voice from the cassette, a voice Michael hadn't heard since he was a child. His father's old business partner, Henry Emily. After everything William had done, all the death, the depravity, Henry had called them all here together in one place to end it all, finally ridding the world from Afton's legacy and freeing all of the tortured souls, including himself and Michael. The room began to heat up from the flames, now burning away at everyone. Smoke filling the air, Michael could be free, yet fate had different plans for him. The smoke surrounding him blackened, the flames around him dwindled to but a simple campfire in unfamiliar woods. Mike's shift was not yet over. Michael Afton is known for trying to undo his mistakes, his deep connection to Fazbear Entertainment, and his ability to survive where others did not. These three aspects of his character should be represented in his perks. Perk number 1, Masked Guilt. You are familiar with the death of ones you care for, but that guilt makes you stronger. Each time a survivor is hooked, you gain 1, 2, or 3 tokens. Upon creating a loud noise notification, 1 token is consumed, and the notification is suppressed. Perk number 2, Boon Prize Counter. Growing up at Fazbear's made you a prize counter regular, regardless of that weird puppet thing. Each time a survivor is hit by a basic attack within the Boon's range, they gain a token for any perk they run. Killers snuffing the totem would lose a token, while not being healed within the Boon. over the course of 30 seconds, you are healed 10, 20, or 30%, whether injured or in the dying state. Perk number 3, Back from the Dead. Death doesn't stop you from doing what's right. After healing a survivor, get a token. At 18, 15, or 12 tokens, regain a hook state. Only activates once per trial.
You won't die.
Now that Michael and his father have been taken in by the entity, there's one great place for their grand reunion. Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, now has a new home in the fog. What had become just a pile of burnt rubble was carefully reconstructed within the entity's realm from the memories of both Springtrap and Mike. The map would have a similar layout to Nostromo Wreckage, in the fact that there would be a rather large, proper indoor main building as the center, while having other tiles surrounding it. Fazbear's Fright would act as the main building, with various loops and even broken walls like Raccoon City Police Department for better gameplay. The office would always contain one of the 7 scattered generators across the map. This generator would be positioned in the back corner, and only 2 survivors could work on it at a time. Upon a survivor completing this generator and escaping, they would be granted with the Clocking Out achievement. The map would be packed full of iconic imagery and Easter eggs from the various Five Nights at Freddy's games. The interior of Fazbear's Fright would have the same props, posters, and parts, while other sections of the map could contain references to other characters and aspects of the franchise. Upon facing the Freddy prop outside of the office, survivors could point at this prop and it would make the iconic sound that's featured in just about every entry in the franchise. Killers attacking the remnants of Freddy Fazbear would also yield the same results. The arcade games featured in the location could occasionally flicker back to life, revealing the mini-games such as Balloon Boy's Air Adventure and Stage 01 that are required to get the good ending. Outside of Fazbear's Fright, there would be a decent-sized parking lot with various car tiles to loop around. Some of these cars would be containing various other drawings, posters, and animatronic parts from other games in the franchise, like they were about to be brought into the location before it burned down. William's signature purple car would have an appearance within the lot, rocking the Spring Bonnie antenna just like in the upcoming 5 Laps at Freddy's. Behind the building there would be a few dumpsters where the iconic members of Trash and the Gang would be featured, as well as newspaper clippings and some of the creepy posters featured in the rare alley screens from Pizzeria Simulator. The exterior of the map would feel much more like Greenville Square, a more wooded location with various loops positioned around rocks and walls. The walls would be lined with more posters and pictures, such as the clown drawing from Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. The Killer Shack would be heavily themed for this map. It would be based upon the safe room where William had lured the children to their demise and ultimately where he met his. It would contain various old party streamers and deflated balloons for a party that never truly happened. It would, of course, also have the 3 defective arcade games as shown in Five Nights at Freddy's 3's Follow Me minigames. Shadow Freddy would even make a cameo, behaving like the Tanuki, where it would disappear a little after being spotted. Even with all this, it would still follow the classic Killer Shack format, with the window vault and pallet in one of the doorways, as well as occasionally spawning in with the basement. Another cool detail would be if, once Endgame collapse begins, Fazbear's Fright catches on fire. It would be a purely cosmetic change. Well, a map isn't the only way to visually reference the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. While taken after the Pizzeria Simulator fires directly from his agonizing purgatory, William Afton's default look should be his most iconic, Springtrap. Springtrap would most likely be translated into the more realistic style of Dead by Daylight. He would probably look more like the appearance in FNAF AR with the more detailed suit and textures. The suit itself may need some proportions readjusted so an average human could fit inside, but should otherwise still be very recognizable. The biggest change would be the far more realistic William Afton corpse rotting inside. A great debate has already started about what Springtrap's weapon would be. The most popular choice is a fire axe, most likely as a reference to how William dismantled the animatronics in the Living Tombstone's Five Nights at Freddy's 3 song, Die in a Fire. The other most popular choice is a knife, as William has used a knife to commit his killings within the other continuities like the Silver Eyes trilogy, as well as the film adaptation. In the game, Springtrap just jump scares the player without any weapon other than himself. It's more logical that Springtrap's default weapon should be his hand, basically. Due to the collaboration being as hyped and massive as it could be, Afton's other choices of attack could still be utilized in other specifically linked cosmetics. Other characters like the Pig or the Skull Merchant have outfits where the weapon has completely different animations. And that should most definitely be the case. Outside of the default appearance of Springtrap, he also must get his prestige look. This more accurate Springtrap now drenched in fresh blood, and even some dripping from his hands, mouth, and eyes. Something many licensed collaborations do is skip the common and uncommon recolors, but as a reference to the merchandising, Springtrap could acquire 2 uncommon recolors based on the tie-dye action figure and plush, nicknamed Cheese Trap and Sprite Trap respectively. Another deep-cut outfit that could work best as an uncommon is Game's Springtrap, which was an all-gold Springtrap Funko Pop. Pretty interesting. Along with the rare Bloody, Springtrap should also have Dark Springtrap, a character thought to be a Funko original, but is actually his appearance at the end of Sister Location, where he's missing an ear wire in the suit's pelvis. While quite drastic to be a rare cosmetic, a full-on suitless Springtrap to show off William's contorted corpse infused with the metal endoskeleton would be just way too cool to pass up. Come on. Springtrap has canonically had different cosmetics thanks to Five Nights at Freddy's augmented reality. These outfits, given to Springtrap, would honestly fit seamlessly into Dead by Daylight, Toxic Springtrap being a fan favorite. Toxic Springtrap could earn the status of very rare by having the bubbles pulsate. A more forgotten of Afton's cosmetics is Curse. Regardless of its forgotten state, it would still be a great addition to Springtrap's wardrobe. My personal favorite of Afton's AR skins would have to go to Clown Springtrap. Clown Springtrap literally looks like a Dead by Daylight cosmetic. Like, he looks like he'd just fit right in. And Clown Springtrap would be the first of these special animation cosmetics that I talked about. He canonically wields that over-exaggeratedly large hammer. He would use that to injure survivors as opposed to swiping at them with his moldy metal hands. The last of Springtrap's very rare cosmetics would be a proper fan favorite, an unwithered Spring Bonnie suit with an alive William inside. Like Clown Springtrap, it would have a different attack animation. He would use a knife to stab at the survivors instead of bludgeoning them with his metal fists or a hammer. The last of his FNAF AR cosmetics would be Flaming Springtrap, who would fall under the new cosmetic category of Ascended. I initially planned for this to be Afton's Rift skin, but since the Deep Rift is no longer blue, a Flaming Springtrap with a blue flame recolor just doesn't make sense for it anymore. Springtrap is also deserving of a Burn Trap Legendary, whether or not lore-wise if Burn Trap is Afton or the Mimic. Michael Afton, while being the best pick for a FNAF survivor, doesn't really have a proper canonical appearance. This would be the perfect time to give him one, and it's not like Dead by Daylight hasn't done similar, just look at Yoichi. Michael Afton would be taken from after he burns with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. Well, at that point he was already a gutted, rotten corpse. Michael's default would most likely be based on him prior to being scooped. A circus baby's entertainment and rental outfit. The very clothes he wore just before he got scooped. Speaking of which, it would be amazing if his prestige was reminiscent of when he first got scooped. Blood all over, and perhaps even a hole in his torso that Ennard could just slither inside. Michael could also get a typical Fazbear Entertainment security guard outfit as another of his rare cosmetics. Even a casual clothing look, like his sprite from the sister location custom night cutscenes. A very rare and fan favorite would be Foxy Bro. This would certainly provide lots of emotion to Mike, mainly guilt, and the entity would just enjoy feeding off of all of that. While a scooped Michael would most likely not be the default, I would love to see it make its way in as an Ascended. Perhaps other outfits with the gutted appearance to reflect how he appeared in FNAF 3 and Pizza Sim. Those would work pretty cool too. Mike would work very well with legendaries of other characters in the FNAF universe. A phone guy legendary would be absolutely iconic and honestly hilarious. Although I doubt they'd give him an actual phone for a head. He'd probably get a similar situation getting a canonical appearance within this, if he was to be a skin. A Charlie Emily legendary, based on the book continuity, would also be very appreciated. And throw in Edwin too, just because I think it would be funny. Vanessa from Security Breach could also work, although I would hope they'd save her and the Mimic for a sequel chapter. I left out two notable appearances, as I thought they'd pair together very well as legendary Rift outfits. Henry Emily and Scrap Trap. The Rift could have a bit more of a pizzeria simulator theme, and the lore entries could focus more on building out Henry and William's relationship, all the way until they burned together. Hell, bring in Michael Afton's franchisee appearance I kind of touched on before. Of course, the highly requested Molten Freddy Dredge legendary could also be featured in this Rift. And while not pizzeria simulator themed, a FNAF 3 menu-inspired animated badge would be absolutely sick, seeing Springtrap twitch and convulse as your little badge icon. Have an accompanying FNAF 3 bad ending banner where the lights flickered inside the heads. That would just be a great touch. There's also plenty of opportunity for charms, like a little Helpy, the Jar of Pickles, Fruit Punch and Lemonade Clown, a mini Music Man, Fruity Maze and Midnight Motorist Arcades, Rockstar Foxy's Parrot, the new Paper Pals, Egg Baby, the Insanity Ending Blueprints, the advertisements for El Chips, and some of the drawings in the office, just to name a handful. There could also be a burning Molten Freddy, Scrap Baby, and Scrap Trap badge, as well as Midnight Motorist, Fruity Maze, and Security Puppet-themed banners. While talking about William and Michael's cosmetics, I also left out their appearances in the movie. I believe that movie skins would release a lot closer to the second film in December. These skins would be a legendary for Mike Schmidt and a visceral for the Yellow Rabbit. I thought about including Vanessa Shelley as well, but she'd probably work better as a legendary down the road for Games Vanessa, assuming that they do a sequel chapter. Mike's appearance would be in the security vest with the security badge Vanessa gives him. The Yellow Rabbit would of course look like the Yellow Rabbit, pre-spring-locked. They could even potentially let you take off the mask to see Matthew Lillard's face. I feel like he would be 100% on board with that, and I could see him doing voice lines for it as well. The skin would also feature a different weapon, his knife, but stained with old blood. I feel the animations would be similar to Springtrap's Spring Bonnie Very Rare outfit. Another drastic change would be the visuals of the power. The Phantoms would be replaced by, albeit still ghostly, the original FNAF 1 cast. Phantom Freddy would be replaced with Freddy, Phantom Puppet would be replaced with Bonnie, Phantom Mangle would be replaced with Chica, and of course Phantom Foxy would be replaced with Foxy. As it would be a visceral, it would feature a unique Mori animation, different to that of regular Springtrap. While the survivors on the ground, he would let out a chuckle. Before kicking them in the face, he would then pick them up by the throat, stab them, and then force them into one of the movie's Springlock suits, Sparky. The Mori would end with the suit starting to go off, killing the survivor. The suit would continue to fail, twitch, and ooze blood even after the Mori animation is complete. Upon purchasing any of these outfits, you would unlock a Garrett's Toy Plane Charm. It would be such a missed opportunity if the skins were just for Springtrap and Mike. There have been many great ideas for FNAF legendaries over the years, like the previously mentioned Molten Freddy Dredge skin. Another very popular one is Ennard on the Unknown. I could even imagine Michael and Ennard having some back and forth voice lines, or potentially Michael trying to warn his fellow survivors of what that thing is capable of. Another character with FNAF skin potential is surprisingly the twins. Chica with Mr. Cupcake, Nightmare Chica with the Nightmare Cupcake, Nightmare Freddy with the Freddles, and Funtime Freddy with Bon Bon are all great options for the twins. The Singularity could also have a Mangle skin, which, wouldn't really make too much sense power-wise, but Mangle's a pretty popular character, and they could make that work with Singularity. I've heard people say Mimic on Singularity too, but as I said before, the Mimic would most likely be the killer for a potential sequel chapter, you know? The Legion also has some honestly great potential. Each member of the Legion could get one of the masks Michael and his friends wore before the big bite. You know, have all 4 members of the Legion dressed up as the FNAF 4 bullies. The Legion's also the best choice for Vanny. She deserves a little more recognition outside of the 2 minutes you see her for in Security Breach. And killers wouldn't be the only ones to get cosmetics. Hex made an amazing FNAF 3 Fazbear's Fright style t-shirt, and it would be amazing if every original survivor got one. Similar to the Iron Maiden shirt in-game, Dwight, the man with every job, could have a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza employee uniform, similar to the one from the movie. And David, who already worked as security, could get the Freddy Fazbear's Pizza security uniform, similar to one Michael would get. Outside of outfits, there's still more cosmetics that could be introduced, charms, badges, and banners. I'd love to see charms of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy plushies, like the ones at the prize counter in FNAF 2. A Psychic Friend Fredbear charm from Sister Location is also a must. Other great charms would include the Office Fan, Phone Guy's Blue Phone, a Faz token, the Puppet's Mask, an 8-bit Purple Guy, an 8-bit Spring Bonnie, 8-bit Foxy Bro, 8-bit Mike, a Balloon Boy figure, the Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica bobbleheads, a RWQFSFASXC figure, sorry if I butchered that, Phantom Chica's arcade cabinet, plush trap, Lolbit's head, hand unit, a basket of exotic butters, and a #1 crate to name a few. Badges including, of course, Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy from the FNAF 1 Custom Night, a Golden Freddy jump scare badge, a badge of the puppet escaping the music box, a badge of Michael wearing his Foxy mask, a badge of Spring Bonnie luring Susie, a badge of Michael post-scoop looking in the mirror, a badge of Dark Springtrap rising from the rubble, and a badge of Henry tinkering with Lefty. Finally, some banners of the FNAF 1 intro newspaper, the FNAF 2 intro newspaper, the FNAF 3 It Burns newspaper, Stage 01, Happiest Day, The Big Bite, Michael's Walk Home, and Take Cake to the Children, specifically William murdering Charlie. Wow, this is the part where I ramble, so forgive me. It's just honestly insane that this collab is finally happening. And it's actually getting revealed in a couple days is honestly insane. I've been waiting for this for like 5 years. The first time I ever heard about Dead by Daylight was because people wanted to see Springtrap, and I was like, damn, that sounds interesting. And then I didn't think much of it until a couple years ago when I played the game, and then a few months later actually got more into it and have been playing it consistently since. Everything after the Xenomorph, I've been like, oh, it's gonna be FNAF for sure. Oh, that teaser for Chucky with all the knives. Oh, we just got the FNAF movie. William Afton used the knife in the movie. It's gotta be William Afton, right? Oh, All Things Wicked? No, it's gonna be FNAF. Oh, the anniversary, Dungeons and Dragons? Nah, it's FNAF, come on. Castlevania in August? No, that's a misdirect, we're getting FNAF. And then August 5th, day after my first upload, the day after my birthday, we finally got the announcement. And it's summer 2025. I've been waiting so long for this. Just so long. Like I said, it's just so surreal that this is actually happening. That it's actually gonna happen and be revealed. That's why I wanted to get this out. I've thought about this for forever. Well before the announcement, I was planning out things. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if there was the banner and it was the FNAF 3 bad ending with the lights flickering? I mean, so much of this stuff I've said and thought, and other people have said and thought, and it's just incredible. I'm so hopeful to see what they'll show off on Friday. Right now, that's a couple days away, and by the time this goes up, it might even be tomorrow. Well, anyway, before I end this, I need to give some proper shout-outs. Firstly, Scott himself, not just for agreeing to this collaboration, but to making this genuinely amazing franchise. I'm sure whatever you and everyone at Behavior are cooking up will be incredible. Speaking of which, everyone at Behavior, for getting this collaboration and designing the look, the power, the cosmetics, everything. I mean, with me working on this, it's been amazing, but also kind of draining, and it's just impressive what you guys are able to do time and time again, year after year, improving the game. And I'm sure with this, you've all done a pretty good job so far, and I can't wait to get my hands all over it when it releases. Next, we got Lewis Dawkins, aka Dawko, FNAF YouTuber I've been watching for forever. I know you've told Scott how fun Dead by Daylight is and that a collaboration with them would be amazing, so I'm sure what you said had a role to play in this actually coming to fruition. Can't wait to see you play this, especially during charity streams. Another great advocate for this collaboration is Talax Jorisk. I probably butchered that so bad. I knew you when you went by Venom Xenomorph, and I'm pretty sure you were the first person I saw detailing how FNAF would be a great addition to the DVD roster. The first time I ever heard of DVD in general. I guess your petition worked. Next, the FNAF for DVD Twitter. You've been so active even prior to this collab's announcement and keeping up with any sliver of news or whatnot on this collab, as well as showing off your own and others' concepts for this collaboration. I know you honestly wouldn't prefer Afton's power to feature the Phantoms, but that's what I figured, so I'm sorry about that. And lastly, very special thanks goes to my friend for getting me DVD, getting me into DVD, and for coming up with all the perks. I mean, sure, I tweaked them, but at a minimum, 87% of it was all him. Go check out his YouTube channel, PotatoMan856. It's featured on my homepage. Honestly, shout out to all my friends, because I'm making these guys play this with me the second it comes out. That just about does it. It's honestly just so surreal that this is finally being shown off in a couple days, and that this is actually, like, done. It's just incredible that this is finally gonna happen. On that incredible note, I will catch you on the flip side. Hopefully. Oh my god. We won.